Hi everyone, today I'm going to take you through the material for the walls from the morning commute image. So I'll just solo that. The geometry is very simple, it's just a ring of faces. I probably added a circle and extruded it up. But what I've done is, if you check the faces, all of the UVs are identical. So I've just selected all U, reset UVs, and it overlays all of the UVs on top of each other here, so that when we get into texturing, I just focus on one face, design the material for that, and then it's duplicated across all of them equally. This is the final material, and this is what it's made up of. It's just a principled shader, and then all of this is the various stages of textures. First thing, we have an image texture. This is just concrete panels. I think it's from CG Textures. And then on top of that, I've added a Voronoi texture here. Just brighten contrast to, up the contrast a bit. And then I've mixed that with a second image texture here, which, if I just check, this is actually the same concrete texture. It's just that this is the default mapping, so it's stretched over the whole thing. And then this one has a scale of 4. So there's 4 horizontally and 4 vertically stacked. So what this does is, in some parts you actually see individual panels, and then in others you kind of just see smooth concrete. And it just breaks things up a little bit, and it kind of makes it look like either there's a smooth finish that's been worn off, or there's like the panels have the definition and that's been worn off. So next thing, we've got a gradient texture, and this is actually the reason I did that thing with the UVs. Also, just a quick thing to note is that while the image texture uses UVs, I'm using generated mapping for the Voronoi texture, so that's not identical per face. And that just means that while the concrete is uniform, the damage texture here is not uniform across the whole wall. So you get the regular stuff here, and then you get irregular patterns on top of that. Now, the reason I've done this thing with the UVs is so that I can use this gradient texture here, and this kind of really accents the walls, like the different panels of the walls. This is just a straight gradient texture, spherical, set to UV. I've had to manually move it across, because if you set this to the default, the gradient would look like this on each wall, and that wouldn't look great. Okay, so this is the gradient texture. I'm then using it as a factor for a mix node. I genuinely cannot remember why I did this. If I just put the straight factor in, oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm actually using this as an invert node. Okay, that's very creative. There we go. Using this as the factor to mix black with white, and it inverts it. Then, rather than just doing a straight multiply or subtract or something with my image texture, so we've got the image texture here, which is the 2 different scales of concrete. The overlay is this kind of green color, so it just gives a bit of a green tint. I was thinking like moss or something, because it's near a body of water. So that adds most of the definition to the actual structure of the wall, like that. Now we have, here is a straight vertical color ramp, and what I've done is I've got the position from the geometry node. I've put it through a mapping so I can control where it is, and then I've used separate X, Y, Z, and so you can see like X, Y, and Z coordinates. In the mapping node, I can change the Z value, and that changes the position of the starting point. So the position of the starting texture, and then I've added some contrast, and I inverted it with a color ramp, added a bit of contrast, and then I'm using this as a factor for another. It may even be, no, it's a slightly different color, and I'm multiplying that color over the bottom half of the walls. So you go from here to here, get like stuff on the bottom of the walls. From there, I believe the next thing that happens is this grunge group. So this is just a grungy texture that I made. It's actually I made it in a different material, made a group, and then ported it over to here and made some changes. So I'm going to go over that group in a different video. It's just a couple of different noise textures, put together and then crushed with a color ramp. So that noise texture is being multiplied on top of. So we've got this one, and then multiply that on the bottom to put some grungy mess and stuff on the bottom. And then that goes into the diffuse of the principal shader. So that's the main thing. And then I've done something similar for the roughness and the bump. So the roughness here. So I've got a color ramp coming just out of the base color. We've got this color ramp, and then we have let's see. So this is coming out of the grunge. The grunge group. I'm adding some value to it so it doesn't go down to 0, and then I'm multiplying that with my the color ramp, which comes from the diffuse. So I'm basically just making sure that they both have some influence. And then what else have we got down here? Oh, there's another texture down here which adds the panels. So this goes into the roughness. And what this texture is just a checker texture, like this. And I'm multiplying that into the roughness by 0.2, so that, if you kind of catch it on a glancing angle, you can see that you make out the different panels. So you've got like the texture repeating, and then you've actually got some the roughness changes per panel, and the bump changes per panel as well, because I've taken this checker texture and I've put it into the displacement on the material output. So I've not added it to the bump, I've just taken it to the material output at the very end. Now the bump, pretty much doing something similar to the diffuse. So I've got the base color, and then that is going into a multiply with the grunge group. And then that is going into the bump here. And then that's going into the normal of the principled shader. Alright, well I think that's everything. Thanks for watching. I'll be putting videos up weekly and going into some different things in the scene. I'm going to go through the water material and then the concrete material, which is where the grunge group comes from in future videos. Thanks for watching.